Good morning, everyone. So I have two of my personal heroes here, Sifu Ron Balicki, and we have Sensei Richard Norton. And so I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, if you would, to talk about a little bit about aging. Not that you guys have aged at all. I
I
don't
get
know
this
how you
question
do
a
it,
lot now.
but
What is he saying?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah, what are you trying
No,
to say?
just generally talking about.
How can that be relevant to us?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is for you. You're talking to other people that are aging, not necessarily.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But how to train smart, how to train for long term, and what's the secret about, if there's a secret about both of you guys lasting as long as you have in such great shape, and at the same time your mind being so clear and everything. So, if any of you guys want to start.
Well, that's a presumption right there that we have clear minds.
One of the things that automatically I went back to is I remember when I was fighting a long time ago in the 80s and 90s, there was a couple guys that I was training with, and it was almost like, come on, Ron, harder, and they were just taking so much thumping in their training. And I remember my sensei always telling me, save it for the ring, get the damage in the ring, not here. And a lot of those guys that I've known back then are so punch drunk now. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen a lot of that too, to where they've just damaged themselves to where they've degraded so much over time. And I went through like this personal thing back then, thinking maybe I'm not doing this right because I thought they had the answer. They were just going harder. But then I started to see that erosion of them, and I started thinking, no, I think I handled this the right way, because I wanted longevity and I didn't want to erode like that. I don't know if you've seen that or if you felt that or if you trained that way at any point in your career.
I think the key is what you just said. The problem, don't know whether to call it problem, that I think a lot of competitive martial artists have is that their whole focus is on the competitive aspect. And unfortunately, that will only last so long. Age is a factor that will affect your ability to compete, and even in Australia, I used to see that all the time, not just as a martial artist, but in other sports, whether it's footballers, cricketers, all these famous people, you'd get them on camera at some stage after their competitive careers as commentators, and their stomachs are out here and they put on all this weight. In other words, it was a very short focus span they had of their careers in their given sports. And I think for martial arts, we've seen this all the time. In hindsight, we've seen so many champions who, for some reason, think that competitiveness and that ability to be the best is going to last forever, and it just can't, So it gets down, I think, to just being smart. We have to train smarter and harder if we want longevity. And I would ask you, you said, well, you wanted longevity. Why? What end?
I mean, to the end, I wanted longevity.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, and I already know the answer to that, meaning I think, and I always try to say this to our peers, that with someone with your experience and your knowledge, not just as competitor, as a teacher in all aspects of knife, of combat and everything else, the value of you having longevity is you get to pass on your knowledge for year after year after year, long beyond when you're able to get into the ring and actually compete with these younger guys. But your ability to impart that knowledge and make those younger ones better is what it's all about, I think,
No, I see that, yeah.
Yeah,
But on the selfish point, I never wanted martial arts to be out of my life. And I thought if I damage myself, it's going to come a point where I've got to back off. And I really...
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. If we're this is where ego comes in. Ego's always been a sort of an underlying sort of through point of martial arts is getting rid of the ego, becoming egoless. In other words, that I have to be able to beat every one of my students. I have to be better than everybody else. And I've often said that if I'm, say, 40 years old and I open up a school and I have a whole class of 20-year-olds, being the constant that we all keep training, they keep training, and I keep training, there's a point where every one of those students will beat me. Age will dictate that. I mean, I'll be 80 and they'll still be 50 or 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have to be okay with that. But again, I think the longevity for us in training smarter and avoid getting ourselves so jacked up and so messed up that we can't even train ourselves, let alone be in a position to actually get on the mat and pass knowledge on to those younger students.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to get to. I mean, you know, Ron, our egos kick in.
Oh, yeah.
We want to be like we were 30 years ago. And again, age dictates us. That's not necessarily possible, but
I'll have that good day, and then the next day I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? You know, but you're
Yeah.
right. You're going to have that. I mean, everything erodes a bit. And I always remember my father-in-law telling me, he goes, Ron, learning, you're going up that ladder, up that ladder, up that ladder.
by the way,
and training.
Ron's father-in-law is the legendary Dan Inosanto.
Yeah, and he said it's going to get to a point where the growth is there, and then you're going to start to decline. Now, if you stop training, you're going to plummet. If you keep training, it's a slow decline, and you should be able to do this for life. But he always gets on me. He goes, I don't care what you do, but just do something
Yep.
every day. Otherwise, you will lose it, and it's hard to
Consistency.
come back at, you know, and I like to think I'm not that old. I'm 54 now, but it's different for me now. I see a difference if I slack off for a week or a month, and then I got to come back, and it's, I don't know if it's that way for you, but I'm sure it is. And, you know, back on Inasana for 1 second, when I met him, I was almost 18 years old. I was 17 years old when I met him. And after I got to know him, he gave me the talk. He's like, how old are you? And at the time I go, I think I'm, you know, close to 20 or something like that. By the time he goes, wait till you're 25 or 30. This is what's going to happen. Then when I got that, he goes, how old are you? I go, I'm 30. He goes, wait till you're 40. This is going to happen. He keeps giving me these talks every 10 years. And I hate the talk because he's telling me how the erosion's going to go. But he's right. But he's also giving me answers on there's still life beyond that. And I mean, I look at you and you're still a force in what you're doing and whatever you're doing. I mean, I want to do it. I don't know what kind of,
Just drugs. Good drugs.
yeah, better living through modern chemistry.
Yeah.
No, but that's a part of it too, is just we're better into health. I look at the way I'm aging compared to my father. And my father, you know, he passed away now, but, you know, it was a different diet, different exercise. And he wasn't a lazy man, he was active, but it's changed. And I think that because of knowledge, time, everything, that all the information that we have now, we kind of know the answer on how to do these things if we really want the answer.
Yeah,
You
well,
learn anything now.
the best thing about age is wisdom. It's a gaining of wisdom. And thankfully, you're the same as me. We never stop trying to look for answers, you know, whether it's on diet, new ways of eating, fasting, which is aside from actually training hard and smart on the mat and everything like that. And it's just getting all that knowledge. But that's, once again, you know, what you said about Sifu Dan, passing on that's our job now, you know.
Yeah.
It's not to be the toughest, it's to be smarter and be able to sort of educate those younger people about the obstacles they're going to run into that are created from age or whatever it is, or injuries, and how to overcome those obstacles. I think that's the thing. But I mean, what you said, for me, I just, you know, luckily my wife is a vegetarian, so, you know, we eat quite simply and everything. I'll still eat meat, but we're pretty much fish eaters and salads and all that sort of stuff. I take supplements. I always trying to find out what the cutting edge is as far as the scientific explanation of the best things to eat and not eat, and the supplements and everything else, because as you know, that changes all the time. But you have to do that. I mean, you have to be a doer. You can't expect to age and not actively do things that are going to improve your quality of life as we get older.
Yeah.
And as I said, relating that back to martial arts, I mean, when I said about ego, I just want to be okay. I'm okay that I don't have to be able to kick somebody in the head anymore, or I'll kick them in the body, or I'll kick them in the leg.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that I can teach a younger student how to kick somebody in the head, same as you would be with so many of the techniques you do. And I just find being more of an elder statesman is actually quite freeing, where you're not the gunslinger on the mat that everybody's going to try and knock off.
No.
And I've said once before that I did a seminar, a grappling seminar, because, you know, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, 28, 30 years now with the Machado brothers. And, you know, I try and pass on, guys, do not get into these suicide matches every time, you know, where it's like this and here. I said, you may last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, come and see me. Let me know how you feel then, you know. It's about enjoying the art and, as you said, looking for the longevity in what you do. Because I said to one young kid that, you know, he was all gassed up. I said, how old are you? And he said, oh, 22. I said, do you realize if you tap me out, you've just tapped out your grandfather? You know, and age-wise, that's what it would have been. I'm 67 now, you know, as a 22-year-old. And I said, worse still, what if I kick your ass? How are you going to feel? So I was just trying to say, look, just look at the relevance and the validity of this competitive aspect, especially against older people in the class, which brings me back to the final point of aging. Is the message I would pass on to so many students is be aware of that, you know, in your environment, on the mat and everything. Age matters, you know, there are factors that matter with physical disabilities or not having the same levels and everything. Be aware, be very cognizant of your partner and their longevity in the art, and don't just make it an ego match where you have to be the one that is dominant every time you get on. Help each other, as you said, get some longevity in the arts. So
Yeah, I think it's smart. It's amazing advice. It's like I remember lifting and wanting to be able to be the guy who benched the most. Now I'm like just happy to get 100 pounds going, you know. I'm not. I'm looking at them, and it's not like. I think I'm letting go of the ego a little bit as I get older. And you have
that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key.
So-
Letting go of that ego. And again, we're not saying that is easy. It's not easy, but I think the older we get and the longer we stay in the arts, the more you accept that that's okay. You do not have to be the toughest on the mat.
You got to remember too, just because the bull pulls his horns in doesn't mean he doesn't have horns. So you can always bring him back out if you
Exactly.
need it. So yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing the wisdom with everybody, and I definitely hope when I get to the age that you guys are, I'll be looking as well.
Oh, you hurt.
Get over here.
Thank you so
Go
much.
get your cane and come over here.
Yeah, really.